Hello, my friend. What's up? What's up? I have this thing that has been buzzing in my head for the last very good time. Remember those days when you used to go to kindergarten and primary school? The teacher comes to class, teaches us about things like in the classroom or anything like that. But I want you to imagine this teacher never wrote anything, never read to us anything, never taught us how to read anything. In the exam, if he brings that question of matching drawings with words, how many marks do you think he would get? Probably, I think I would get 0, 0. Well, that's how most musicians learn their music. By the way, my name is KWENYE, and in this video, I'm going to tell you what others don't tell you about reading and writing music. By the way, if you haven't watched the video about labeling the notes on this keyboard, check this out. It's here. And if you haven't learned anything about intervals, please check the video in the same playlist because we are continuing with those concepts and we are broadening them today. Okay, let's get started. So first of all, music is written in two sets of 5 lines each and 4 spaces each. For that reason, we have 5 lines up and 4 spaces and 5 lines below and 4 spaces. I think you understand that. In the 5 lines above, we call those the treble. And then the lines below, we call that the bass. As the piano is played using 2 hands, the treble notes are usually played by this hand and the bass notes are usually played by this hand. I think that's very easy to understand. Issue number 2 is you have to understand that the boundary between these two staves, these two groups of lines and spaces, is what we call middle C. So for that reason, on my piano, this is middle C. As long as it's in the middle, that's the thing. A lot of pianos are longer than this, but as long as you can find the one which is in the middle, that's the most important thing. Next thing, from middle C, we are going to count using intervals to find the next notes, okay? Let's start with the treble. From middle C, this is a D. That's the space after middle C. Then we have an E on the first line in the treble. Then we have an F on the first space, G, second line, A, second space, B, third line, C, third space, D, fourth line, E, fourth space, and F on the 5th line or the last one. But the keyboard continues and others even continue more and more. So we use the concept of ledger lines to represent such notes. On the first space after the 5 lines, we have a G. And then on the first ledger line, we have an A. Second space after the ledger lines, after the usual lines, we have a B. And then on the second ledger line, we have a C. And now, when it comes to the bass side or bass clef, here's the thing. So from middle C, the space below the middle C is a B. On the line below middle C, that's the very first line on top of the bass clef, we have an A. First space from the top, we have a G. Second line from the top, we have an F. Second space from the top, we have an E. Third line from the top, we have a D. Third space from top, we have an C. The fourth line from top, which would be the second from the bottom, we have a B. And in the fourth space from the top, or the first space from the bottom, we have an A. And on the 5th line from the top, or the first line from the bottom, we have a G. But these pitches continue going. So the F is the space you see next to that line. And the first ledger line going down, we have an E. On that space next to it, we have a D. And on the second ledger line going down, we have a C. So I think we have, for the 5 lines above or on top and the 5 lines below and the 4 spaces on top and the 4 spaces below, we have a combination of 18 notes so far. But some people have invented clever sentences to help you remember these notes, okay? Of course, middle C is something you must be familiar with, okay? If you are talking about notes on lines from the bass side, we have GBDFA, and those ones can be remembered using a phrase, good boys do fine always. And when it comes to the spaces in between those lines, the notes on those spaces can be remembered as A, C, E, G. The phrase is all cows eat grass. I think that is easy for any African. On the side of the treble, on the lines we have E, G, B, D, F. And they can be remembered using the phrase every good boy does fine. And for the spaces, we have FACE, and those ones spell the word face. But as you will become aware, usually music is going too fast to be able to remember these phrases every time you have to play a note. Remember, you can go as fast as 16 notes in a bar. So that would take you ages, really. So some people have invented another system called the landmark system. And under this system, you have landmark notes you must remember, okay? Those ones can help you trace the other ones, okay? And in this system, you use intervals. The first landmark is the middle C. Second landmark, we have another C down, and this is in the second space from below. And then we also have an F. This F is on the second line from above, and sometimes the bass clef is called the F clef. Why? Because the sign of the bass clef rotates much around that note F. So that's why sometimes it's called the F clef. Of course, we start with middle C. And the next landmark we have is that one of the C above. See that it's in the second space below, on top, from the top. And the next one is the G. Why? Because the treble clef is sometimes called the G clef. Why is it called so? Because its symbol rotates around that line of G. So those are the 5 landmarks you have to know about. So we have the middle C, we have the 2 C's, and then we have the F and the G, okay? So the moment you know about those, I think life becomes a whole lot easier. So let's work around some examples. These are the notes I have. I think that's our first landmark. The next one, it's immediately in the space above C, which is a D. Third one is on the next line from C, which makes it a third, means I skip that space of the D, and it is an E, that means. The next one is on the space above E. And which landmark can we use? I think we have a G. That G, the one we are considering now, is below it, which is an F. And as you can see, you can easily find out whichever note you're looking for. So in this case, I'm having a note which is this one. What do you think that is? If you guessed an A, you are right, simply because it is just in that space below. It's just in the space below the space for C, which we already know. If you want to guess this note, how would you say? If you guessed G, you are right. Why? Because it's just above the F, which we know. So this system and using intervals, it can really help you. Remember, if you're moving from a space to a space, that's a third. If you're moving from a line to the next line, that's also a third. If you're moving from a line to the space next to it, that's a second. But if you're moving from the line to the next line up, that means that's also a fifth. You can get to understand how easily these ones can be traced. I've attached a link to the PDF file which you can use to really look at all these notes. This is just the beginning. Thanks a lot. My name is KWENYE. Feel free to subscribe if you find the information useful. But you can check this video or this playlist. You can easily find there information that really continues this journey. Thanks a lot and see you then.